Welcome to the Slice and Dice Ecom podcast. I'm Mara, brand manager at ClickSlice, and I'm joined by the lovely
Julia, operations director at ClickSlice.
As some of you might know, I am managing Kiab, Knit in a Box, the ecom brand ClickSlice acquired, and Julia obviously is the operations director at ClickSlice and manages campaigns for over 40 clients now. Yeah. But out of all of those clients, I want us to focus on the small ones today, the small brands that you are managing. And the first question I have for you is, how do you stay genuinely connected to what these small brands actually need, not just what looks good in a report?
So I'd say what's most important is understanding who the person is behind. For us, it's all about connection. And we normally most of our clients are small brands, and they're not just a number for us. For me, communication is super important. Knowing the inside and out of their operations, what their goals are, knowing their customers as well, kind of like getting my skin in the game, and knowing the person behind the brand. So not just the brand owner, but for example, you manage Knit in a Box. Who is Mara on a day-to-day basis? I don't only talk about I don't know, KPIs or data. I like to understand also the personality behind. It's just getting to know that person as much as you can, so you can understand what they prefer when working with someone else, what they expect from us. Yeah, it's just a lot about connection, I'd say.
So do you feel like sometimes agencies get too obsessed with frameworks and forget about this whole human aspect of
Yeah, definitely. And I think it happens also because imagine an agency runs and oversees so many campaigns that you're also, from an operations perspective, you try to make it as organized as possible. So frameworks are part of it, but then there's a limit. And you have to know how to combine the bespoke part and understanding each campaign's uniqueness, but also frameworks do help. They help you keep organized, they help you follow roadmaps. So I think it's a balance. That's super important. Having only frameworks in place, it's just you're gonna forget a lot about the ultimate goal, and you're gonna get stuck into step-by-step processes, which might not work for every brand. So there's a fine balance there.
Right. So since you mentioned that, how do you balance this personal side that small brands value so much with efficiency, the system, and the whole process that goes on behind closed doors?
So we do have SOPs in place that we follow, but also based on campaign performance, for example, you adjust that. We do have calls with brand owners. So that depends. Obviously, we do monthly calls, but if a brand owner wants to catch up with me on a specific subject, I'm not just going to say, no, sorry, we haven't met our monthly cadence yet and we still have to wait for 2 weeks. No, we do follow our SOPs, but when needed, we introduce this personal level of bespoke to each campaign individually.
Great. So, for instance, I manage a small brand, right? And I feel like a lot of small brand owners at times might say, I don't care about all of this data you're presenting me with. I only care about the actual progress. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, that's a good point. They really don't care. Most of them don't, and I understand.
And they might not even understand it properly.
Yeah.
Like, of course, you have to explain it to them, but they only care about what they see, like in front of them.
Yeah, and especially it's about understanding where they come from and why this is happening.
Yeah.
So actually putting yourself in their shoes. And given you're a small brand owner, imagine you don't have all the time to go through all of those reports, and we get that, so we try to simplify it as much as possible. And at the end of the day, data is just vanity metrics. So what we care about is painting the picture, is explaining, kind of like storytelling, explaining the customer journey. And at the end, what we care about is either if that brand is getting an increase in sales or an increase in leads, depending on if you're an ecom brand or a service brand. So I just genuinely acknowledge that and try to mold myself, kind of, if that's a word, to what that specific brand wants to get from us. And with limits, of course, because as I've said, we have so many clients, it's super hard to make it fully bespoke. But it's super important for me to understand what they're looking for and how their collaboration style works. And I try to adapt as much as possible.
It's also all about trust,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
What would you say is the easiest way for an agency to lose a small brand's trust?
Say that they're understanding something and doing the completely opposite thing. So, for example, say you've got a specific way in which you write blogs and in which you present your products on those blogs. And we say, yeah, 100%, we're going to help you with this. We're also going to come up with ideas. And then when you deliver the first blogs, you're completely off brand tone. You haven't added any images, or your images are completely, again, off their brand. So when you promise something, and when you're listening to someone, actively listen. And once you say you're doing something, do what you've promised. Don't, it's about, again, as you said, trust, not breaking trust, communicating openly. Transparency is super important. So save some rankings for a couple of keywords have gone down in the last 2 weeks. Don't try to hide it. You would rather want to show it to them, be proactive about it, and also present to them what the strategy is next to make sure that those rankings come back up.
Something I'm really curious about now, from your experience working with so many small brands on a day to day basis, what would you say that they often underestimate about what goes on behind the scenes and the work that you do at the agency?
I'd say most brands think SEO is super easy and they just limit it sometimes to, it's a couple of backlinks and a couple of blogs each month. So I could do that. I could write just a couple of blogs. But there's a lot of work behind it, and there's so many details that go into this. So for backlinks, even, for example, is not just any backlinks that you could build.
Yeah.
It's a ton of research behind it, into your competitors, into specific metrics for each backlink. Same with blogs. You can't write like about any topic. It has to make sense. They have to correlate, and you need to internally link specifically between them. Like there's so many levels of specialities, and it's not as easy as it sounds. But the good part of this is that it means we're making it so easy. So we're making the job look so easy to them, which is a good thing because we're not overcomplicating. Also, that on our side is a hard thing to do. So imagine there's so many technicalities in the middle.
Yeah, it sounds a little overwhelming.
Yeah. And trying to relate it back to someone that's never heard of SEO before isn't that easy, because in your head, it sounds super straightforward, but you have to understand that they don't know how it works. So you have to simplify it as much as possible while also translating it into valuable information. So I'd say that's a big challenge, which we do every day, and I love it. But yeah, I think definitely a lot of brands underestimate this.
So, do you think there's any way agencies could improve the way they report progress to smaller brands and make it a little more human, other than all of these metrics that we've discussed?
Yeah, 100%. So we do also have reports, but I think they're in vain if there's not a human attached to them, basically. I think it makes more sense for brands to actually jump on calls with their agencies and understand what that report is about, because it's worthless if you just get a piece of paper that has some numbers on it, but you don't understand. You can't make anything of it. So I'd say definitely connection, and having a catch up call, quick one to go through this is super important. I also think an important aspect is not looking so much at keywords and traffic once the campaign stabilizes. So I've seen a lot of agencies and also LinkedIn people talk about keywords and traffic a lot, but these can be vanity metrics at one point. And what we tend to do once these stabilize is look more into conversion rates, how users obviously interact with the website, sales, basically return on investment, because that's what ultimately matters.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're ranking number one, you get traffic, but if users aren't converting, then what's the point of this? So yeah, I'd say this is another part we should focus more on.
Well said, spot on. My last question for you is a bit more personal. I want to ask you, what's one thing you've learned from working with so many small brands over the years and that actually made ClickSlice an overall better agency?
Empathy, how hard it is to be a
Yeah.
small brand, for sure. Understanding what they have to deal with every day, market shifts, especially, for example, we have a client, UK based, but they also sell in the US. So, how all of the changes, the recent changes have affected them. So, yeah, definitely, it's not just, as I've said, it's not just a number to us. And I connect on a deeper level with smaller brands, and I'm a lot more passionate on working with smaller brands because I know I also sense kind of like a purpose behind it. I know it's small family business that wants to expand, and also that's going to contribute to their community around them. So I love this, and yeah, I'd say empathy and really understanding the struggles that they go through, which not everyone talks about, not even them. They
Yep.
don't always bring it up on calls. I kind of get the gist of it from the data that I see and market shifts. So I tend to piece things together. And then once I open up about this and share more insights, they tend to open up about it a bit more. So we connect better. So
But I
yeah,
think we
I'd say,
understand this a little better now, having our own small
yeah.
brand that we're in charge of. It's become a lot more personal, and we can relate to the clients a lot better as
Yeah,
well.
100%,
So it
100%.
definitely helps us understand them. Yes, that being said, that was a great episode. Thank you for answering all of my questions.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Stay tuned, subscribe, like, comment, share, do all
Anything you
that.
can do.
And we'll see you in the next one.
See ya.
Bye.